Alright, so we're back, of course, to talk about some sort of Final Fantasy 16. We're definitely going to discuss some shit because I want to talk about like the Metacritic score stuff that's going around. Kind of give my thoughts on that a little bit. But specifically, there's an interview that I seen yesterday from Bloomberg and Jason Schreier talking about 16 and kind of about Yoshida, but also I think they're interviewing Yoshida. It's a really weird layout for an interview or an article that I've ever seen where it's like just him reiterating things that Yoshida said, but not like a question and answer format, which was, I'm not really a big fan of that. Like, I want to hear exactly what he said. I want you to be like, Yoshida says this, Yoshida says that. Like, I don't know, it's just a strange kind of article. But also, for some reason, this interview, we'll call it, had Kitase as a part of it, which I get that he's like a big like main dude up at Square Enix, but I don't know if he had any hands directly in 16. Maybe he did. I just don't keep up with that stuff, really. And I don't know that much about 16, as you guys know. But yeah, there's like random like parts with that Kitase talking. But specifically, what I wanted to focus on for this video was Kitase seemingly being fine with a Call of Duty style first-person shooter Final Fantasy game. And actually, like, looking over it again and kind of reading over the full article, not just the Kitase quote, like, Yoshida also kind of agrees with him at the end, so it's like, I don't know, man. Are they really... Is this even, like, a possibility? I don't want that at all. Let's read these quotes and then we'll talk about it. Final Fantasy's mutability means it is transformed along with the shifting tastes of new generations. The franchise has been around so long that one veteran Final Fantasy artist has a son who recently started working at the company as well, a rarity in the industry. But when it comes to evolution, how far could Final Fantasy go? Could the next version leave behind its role-playing roots and turn into, say, a first-person military shooter? Yes, Kitase says. He'd be open to a Final Fantasy game in the style of Call of Duty, as preposterous as it may sound. He also acknowledges that new ideas are likely to come from the younger members of the staff. My imagination really has its limits, he says, so it's really great to have a new generation of creators on board. Yoshida, who continued to supervise updates and expansions for Final Fantasy XIV even as he worked on Final Fantasy XVI, he also joined Square Enix's board of directors in 2018, agreed. Call of Duty is using all this modern weaponry, but when you think about it, it's this small group of people going around saving the world. That's very Final Fantasy, he says, laughing. All it would need, he adds, is crystals. So obviously he seems to be joking a bit with his quotes, but they would need more than just crystals to make Call of Duty Final Fantasy, right? Because they need magic and summons for one. Summons is obviously a big part of the Final Fantasy games. So there's a lot that Call of Duty would still need, but also when it comes to like Call of Duty, like it's very, very gun focused, right? It's a first person shooter. That's like all you're doing is shooting people with guns. And it's not really that in Final Fantasy. Like there's obviously gun weaponry, gun classes and jobs depending on the game and stuff like that exist obviously. The closest one I can think of is probably 8. Like 8's a pretty good example of one that could be a shooter because there's the whole military aspect of it. Though the gun blades in 8 don't actually shoot, which is a common misconception. For whatever reason, the gun blades in 8 don't shoot. Like whenever you do like the trigger shit in combat, like you're vibrating the gun to make it do like more damage or more critical damage or whatever the fuck it is. It's like it's such just a stupid thing. Made a little more stupid in my opinion by the fact that stuff like this actually exists and has existed for like hundreds of years. So why would you put gun blades into your game and not make them actually shoot projectiles? I don't know how practical of a weapon this is, but that's not even the point. They're real. Would you believe like later iterations of the gunblade do shoot in the Final Fantasy franchise? Like did Lightning have a gunblade? I don't even remember actually, but I think like Final Fantasy 14 you can have like a gunblade class or whatever. Like that's a weapon you can use in that game, and I think it shoots. We're on a tangent here, but the point is like gunblades are an example of something that could work in like a first-person shooter kind of Final Fantasy, but ultimately, I don't want that. Look, I'm as much of a fan of the Call of Duty franchise as the next guy. I've been playing the Call of Duty series for a decade plus now at this point. You know, I don't know exactly when I started. I retroactively went back and played like older Call of Duties like Black Ops 1 and like Cold War. I kind of really got into it with like Black Ops 2, but that game was a little bit older at the time, and then I've just played like every one of them since, right? Black Ops 3, Black Ops 4, and all the other ones. Advanced Warfare and all the modern ones. Like me and the boys play MW2 as of right now too sometimes. And the last one we put a lot of time into was Cold War. Played that for almost a year straight. So, you know, I'm a big fan of the Call of Duty franchise, and obviously I'm a big fan of the Final Fantasy franchise. I don't need them to come together. Like, what's to be gained of that? Like, if you want to do like a spin-off game, maybe, like that could be fine, right? Some sort of like almost like a Stranger of Paradise, sort of like its own thing, maybe connected a bit to the franchise or one of the games. Again, maybe like a spin-off 8 game. I wouldn't even hate that. But I don't want like Final Fantasy 17 to be a first-person shooter. Final Fantasy 18, 19, 20, whatever. I don't want a numbered entry to be a first-person shooter. I don't even think I want like a first-person Final Fantasy game in general. That just sounds weird. I don't know. Maybe I'm an old man standing in my yard yelling at the kids, right? Like I don't want change. I don't like change, but like I'd probably check it out, but I just don't want that. Obviously, if that ends up happening sometime down the road, who knows how long from now, if that ever happens, it might be good. I don't know how serious their answers are here, but it's like in my mind, I don't want that. And we kind of got that with First Soldier. Something people have been pointing out on social media the last day or so. We got that, right? It's a third person. Like, obviously, if you go into like ADS and like you have like a sight on your gun, you go first person to shoot and stuff when you snipe and whatever the fuck. But we've seen them try to kind of adopt the Call of Duty shit, right? Like, and that's kind of what Call of Duty is these days, anyways. Is Battle Royale. Like, that's kind of it's a mobile only game, obviously, but you know, Call of Duty's main thing is Warzone these days. So like, that's kind of what you would be mimicking a bit. I don't know. Like, also in general, when it comes to like shooters and Square Enix, they don't have the best track record, right? We can go back to as far as like Dirge of Cerberus. That's one of the. A lot of people don't like the gunplay in that game. I can't speak for it personally. Never played the game, but I don't hear people like going, "Oh my god, the story's kind of weird. This is kind of weird. I don't like that about the game, but holy shit, the gunplay is fantastic." You just don't ever hear that. I can't speak on it personally, but maybe they could, if they really are serious about this. Maybe, if these aren't like joke answers, they can maybe bring in some people from like that have a history at Call of Duty, like from Respawn or something like that, because that's where a lot of them went to eventually, and like maybe they can help do that shit if that's what they're serious about. Kind of like they did with like bringing in somebody from Devil May Cry 5 to help with the combat for 16, and one of the main things that's praised about 16 is the combat. So I don't know. It's an interesting future, we'll say. But anyways, on to some more 16 stuff. For one, I did pre-order the game today, finally. I always buy the game last minute because I don't know if I'm going to buy it digitally or physically. And if I'm going to buy it physically, we'll just go to the store and buy it because I don't really care about the pre-order bonus stuff for most games because they're not like that good. There's some pretty interesting stuff for 16, so hopefully I think you get like more gil and like there's like a case hit item I think that like gets you more gil, and there's like something else I don't remember. We talked about it in a video before. Regardless, I did pre-order the game, so I'm definitely excited to hop into that. We may or may not have a video tomorrow because I kind of want to put some time to 16 because I do want to play the game. Like, I know I had like people latched onto the fact that I wasn't like over the moon about the story in the demo specifically. That's only because we knew it was going to happen in the demo, right? We knew the story of the demo more or less from every single trailer. Hell, from the first trailer, we knew it was going to happen in the demo. So I want to get more of the story because people are praising the story a lot. People who have early access to the game, that people that have put hours into the game, are talking about how good the story is. I have seen mixed opinions, and these aren't spoilers. I'm not going to give you guys spoilers here, but people are saying like the side questing, like the fetch questing, isn't that good. And that is unfortunate if that's true, but ultimately that's not a big deal. Like, I'm fine with like kind of, there's a monster in this cave over here and they're harassing our village, can you go kill them or whatever the fuck. Like, that's fine with me, dude. It's not that big of a deal. Not every RPG needs to have like Witcher 3 level side quests where every choice and thing you do matters and you're gonna have these consequences 10 hours into the game or some shit. Like, it's fine, dude. Like, I'm okay with that. I just want some questing and things to do besides the main story. So if they're just kind of fetch quests or whatever, like, it's fine, dude. Whatever, who gives a shit. But also we know that 16 offers like hunts or whatever, hunt jobs, which I'm a big fan of from 12. 12 made me absolutely love that kind of concept when it comes to the Final Fantasy games. 15 had it, and I enjoyed it in 15. I don't think I did all of them in 15. I've done all the hunts in 12 several times over. But I'm looking forward to that too. That's like a fun thing for me in the Final Fantasy franchise, is hunt boards and shit. And like getting to like go hunt some like badass monster in the area or whatever the hell. Like, that's just cool to me. So I'm looking forward to that. As for the Metacritic thing I want to talk about, as of right now, Final Fantasy 16 is a high 80. With like I think 100 reviews on the site right now from obviously journalism sites, and some people think that's not high enough, and I sort of get it because like if you go and look at the page, like there's like 93 positive reviews and then there's like 7 like mixed reviews, which kind of skews the number a bit, because if there was like 100 like positive reviews, regardless of what the numbers would be, it's probably closer to like a 90. But ultimately, like a high 80 is good, especially for the Final Fantasy franchise, which I feel like gets like mixed reviews a lot. I think 7 Remake like was pretty decent. Remake on PS4 might have been like the 80s if I'm not mistaken, and then maybe like Integrate got pushed to like the 90 range or something like that. I don't remember. It's all off the top of the head, obviously. But like a high 80 is perfectly fine. But ultimately, the shit doesn't matter. Like, what's it matter? Who gives a shit? Do you really care what some random ass website you never heard of reviews Final Fantasy 16? People were super invested on what the Metacritic score is going to be for Final Fantasy 16. Like, people have been talking about it the last day or so, like anticipating, like, oh, the Metacritic score is coming out tomorrow. Like, what's it going to be? Is it going to be in the 90s? Is it going to be the 80s? What's it going to be? Is it going to be low, high, whatever? Like, and who gives a fuck, man? Like, that shit can affect the game. But this game is hyped to the point that, like, it's going to be successful regardless. It's going to be financially successful, but also it's going to be a highly rated game. Because everybody that's played it has praised it outside of these random ass websites that are giving it like a 60 or whatever. Like, that's way too low. Like, I haven't even played the game yet. I know that this game's not a fucking 60. Like, you're just lying. You're just like some boomer who doesn't like the change, doesn't like the combat or something. Because there's no fucking way Final Fantasy 16, or really any Final Fantasy that I can think of anyways, is a fucking 60. Like, Like, you're just pulling that out of your ass. You're just doing that to skew the numbers. Talking to you specifically, Eurogamer and Digital Trends, shove these reviews right up your asshole. Anyways, dudes, that is pretty much the video. So, Final Fantasy 17 first-person shooter Call of Duty-esque game confirmed. Not yet, but that might be something we see in the future. There might be, sometime down the road, who knows when, a first-person shooter Final Fantasy game. And I just don't know how to feel about it. What are your thoughts on the Metacritic score for 16, huh? Is it too high, too low? Not high enough? What are your thoughts? Anyways, that is the video, my dudes. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. Search in the description below. Follow me on Twitter, _DavidYT. That's it. Bye.
Used to care what people thought, but now I care more. And nobody out here's got it figured out. So therefore, I've lost all hope of a happy ending, depending on whether or not it's worth it. So insecure, no one's perfect. We spend it with no shame. We blow that like Coltrane. We in here like Low Gain or leave it like Old